Welcome to Diversity TV Community Newscast. It's Friday. It's time for your April 23rd, 2021 Diversity Community Newscast. Hosted by Harriet Tinka and myself, Rayyah Sempala. Sponsored by Rayyah Plumbing and Heating. Here are the headlines for this week. The idea of a football super league rocks relationships between football supporters and owners worldwide. Discover the tiny but wonderful city of Fort Saskatchewan and its multicultural history. Diversity TV introduces a monthly real estate segment to share real estate updates with you. After Diversity TV Community Newscast, Diversity TV in the Community brings to you a special panel to discuss the impact of the George Floyd verdict on our community. Now the news in detail with Harriet
Tinka. Segment 1. Football fans, as we call it here in North America, soccer, are on the alert. The push for a football super league, a breakaway league by the richest European football clubs, faced resistance from all facets of football across the world, and most of the major teams involved were forced to withdraw and apologize. Some say football was made by the poor, and now the rich want to stage a takeover. We invited B2B Soccer Academy founder Conde Mansare to break it down for you.
I know, Harriet, that this is a big deal for our audience in the diverse community, as most of us are really huge football fans or soccer fans, as we call it here.
Oh, you bet. I think one of the biggest things that people were saying is usually when you watch football, you can see the underdog playing against the best team. So now with this new league, that's not going to be possible. It's just going to be only the elite playing together. So let's see what our football specialist Conde has to say.
Like there's a super league that 12 clubs were the founding member. So this 12 clubs, basically they're trying to make a league of 20 clubs. So 15 clubs will be permanently never relegated. Even if they finish last, there's no financial burden. So they'll always be there in that league. And for football in Europe, it's a little bit different because they have the promotion relegation structure, where a team from the fifth division can work their way all the way to the top division. And the team from the top division can jump to the second division, right? And jump to the third division. So that's the system they have in Europe. And that's what makes every single game exciting, especially a lot of us, we watch Premier League. It's on TV in Canada. So a lot of us, we watch Premier League, and that's the system they have, right? So with this Super League, it threatens that system, right? Because like the number one league in the world when it comes to club soccer is called Champions League, UEFA Champions League. So a team from the third division can work their way all the way to the Premier League and go to the Champions League, right? But with this system, it becomes difficult, right? Because now with 15 clubs in this Super League, it takes away from that competition. What is impacting the soccer world is the competition aspect. In sports, in life, in like everything we do is based off competition, right? So if a few big clubs, a few billionaires, they're trying to get more money, and basically trying to kill the smaller clubs, right? So that's what is hurting the whole soccer community around the world, because soccer is a form of community, right? I can live in the north side of Edmonton, for example, for everyone to relate. I can live in the north side of Edmonton. We can have a club that everyone in the north side of Edmonton support, but we're a small club. We don't have much money. We don't have big owners. And you guys have to understand too, in Europe, especially in England, a lot of these clubs are owned by the community, right? So the big Manchester United, the Real Madrid, they're owned by billionaires, right? But a lot of these small clubs like Sunderland, Liverpool's a big club, but there's a lot of these clubs that like they're mainly owned by the community, the fans, and the people around the neighborhood. So for them to be, for me as a football, as a coach, as a fan, as a former player, like I love to see the competition of the underdog coming from the bottom and rising to the top, right? So I think the Champions League allows anyone to be able to get into the Champions League, where this Super League doesn't allow anyone. It's basically the 15 big clubs, they're there all the time, and they leave like 5 more spots for like the champions of the different leagues, right? Which now the smaller league, they won't have that opportunity to compete at the highest stage, right? And life and football, everything is all about competition and having like an open pathway for anyone to move up and down, right? I think that's the biggest thing as footballers, as football coaches, as football people. We want to make sure there's a system in every single country where people can start small and get big, right? For us, like we run a soccer academy, myself and two other partners. We run a soccer academy called B2B Soccer Academy. We recently became like a club, but we still have the structure of a club academy where we're training. The training aspect is more important than the game aspect to us, right? Just because that's where people get better, right? But we run a program that starts from U4, so under 4, 3-4-year-olds, all the way to under 21s. And the under 21 program is a free program. It's a fully funded program where the best players are there, and we train them, and we look to send them to different opportunities, whether that's university or professional teams. But yeah, as a soccer coach in Edmonton, we're looking to grow the game of soccer. We're looking to open pathways for people, and also we're looking to be an example, because a lot of people, we run our soccer club academy, we run it, and it's tough for young Black people, especially in this part of the world, to be able to do these things, because a lot of this, I don't think there's anyone in Canada, I'm not sure, I might be wrong, that especially someone of color that's running a soccer club, that founded a soccer club, and now we're growing, right? We're growing slowly. But yeah, we're trying our best in Edmonton. We have from under 4 to under 21 boys and girls, especially the grassroots, the youth, the under 4 to under 7. We're looking for girls to get into the sports, especially immigrant girls, right? I know sometimes, like for me, growing up in a family where girls, they're not promoted to play sports, right? People think, oh, it's a waste of time, is this, is that. But to tell you the truth, girls in soccer, the ones I've seen, they amaze me, right? Because a lot of them, they're doing very well in school, they're doing very well in life, right? They're on the right path, they're committed, they work hard, right? They have that work ethic in them. I think we need to start, even as you guys as Diversity Magazine, we need to try to get more girls in sports, especially from our communities, right? Because you don't see a lot of girls from our community in sports, right? We need more of that. And for me, as a coach, as a leader in the soccer community, I really, really want to start getting to the communities and trying to bring girls into the sport, because it's needed.
Segment 2. Diversity TV introduces a monthly segment on real estate updates with a super realtor, Conrad Agla, a top producing realtor amongst the top 1% of realtors at his brokerage, Urban Real Estate Services Limited, and he is amongst the top 5% of all Calgary area realtors.
His understanding of real estate economics and statistics, market trends, market influencers, drivers, and the real estate cycle enables him to provide great information and insight to clients who use him for the purchase and or sale of their homes. He is well sought after speaker and advisor on real estate sales and finance within the immigrant community in Alberta, especially Calgary and Edmonton, with recognition from many real estate and community organizations for his exceptional services.
Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? We got Conrad right here every month to share with you some monthly real estate updates for today.
Absolutely. It would be great for him to keep us every month informed on what's going on in the real estate world.
Real estate is local, but then we can talk about what is happening in Alberta and Canada. So we've seen a shift, especially in Alberta. We've seen a shift in the market from a buyer's market to now a seller's market. Now, this seller's market too, it's actually in one major property class, which is the detached, single-family detached class. The attached market is still dragging along, probably in a balanced market right now, and apartment condos market is still in a buyer's market. So that's what we've seen right now, and there are a lot of factors that account for this shift that we are experiencing now. At this point, people ask me when is the best time to buy. I said real estate is always, every time is the best time to buy, as long as you have a plan and you have a goal. So at this time, some people who were monitoring the markets for the last few years might be wondering if we've hit a peak or if there's going to be a crash, and they might want to wait. But there is no need to wait. When you get into the market right now, you begin to build equity. When we examine carefully the factors that are impacting the market, it's going to take a while for this market to hit that peak, for it to get into that level where we'll have a crash. So for anyone at this time, I would say, okay, do your budget. If you're a first timer, put your house in order, make sure that you can qualify for a mortgage. Majority of the time, I know that for immigrants, the challenge we have is actually our credit. Try and work on your credit, put some savings aside, and make sure you keep your job. Just talk to the professionals involved, especially a mortgage broker and a real estate agent. They can guide you. Just make sure you make those conversations and plan properly, and then take the decision. If it will take you a few months for you to be ready, it's better you are in the known and prepare than just wait and these opportunities will go by. So my advice is, for those people who are planning to buy or who plan to buy in future, you just have to start making the preparation now. For those who have properties and who are also wondering what is happening in the market, we do free property evaluation. So you can reach out to us or reach out to a realtor that's experienced and and they can take you through the process to find out how much your property might sell for in this market. And if you intend to sell too, there are things you need to do so that you can get your property sold at a top dollar, so it doesn't sit in the market for that long. So you just start that conversation and you should be fine. The name is Conrad Agla. If you Google that, you will be able to find me. But my number is 403-690-0809. 403-690-0809. And my website, you can go to conradagla.com. conradagla.com. You can find me on Instagram, Conrad Agla Real Estate, Facebook, Conrad Agla.
Segment 3. Cancer is a sickness that few make through. It's a journey like no other, with new experiences as well as requiring a lot of guidance. A Calgary couple started a cancer support group, African Cancer Support Group, after going through the cancer journey. Listen to what they have to say.
My name is Yinka Oladele.
And I'm Bayo Oladele.
Today we want to talk to you about the African Cancer Support Group.
Yes, African Cancer Support Group was formed in about 3 years ago to take care of cancer patients of African origin in Calgary.
So we deal with people from Africa, Caribbean, and Black Canadians. We support people, the survivors, the patients, caregivers, and their families.
So within the African community, cancer is not something that we take with levity. As a matter of fact, we don't like to talk about cancer. And so when people are, involved in cancer disease, when people have cancer, it's difficult for the community to know that people are going through such challenges. So African Cancer Support Group intends to bring people out to sensitize people about what cancer is about, that cancer is not necessarily a death sentence.
Yes, so we have survivors who brings words of encouragement, words of hope to those that are fighting. And also we provide emotional support, psychosocial support.
Segment 4. The new Black History Month / Women's Day Diversity Magazine print edition is now published with full color, glossy, beautiful printed copies to be distributed across Alberta from April 22nd, 2021.
Yes, it's loaded with inspiring Black History Month stories, as well as exciting stories of 41 women across Alberta as part of International Women's Day Special 2021. You can now download a free copy at www.diversitymag.ca and click on Digital Magazines on the top menu bar.
New addition to diversity offerings, Diversity Magazine introduces
Souvenir of Prominence.
We are so proud to partner with Power Play Sports to take our storytelling to a new level.
We can now use beautiful designs and fancy colors to capture your Diversity Award experiences and wonderful articles on presentable plaques, trophies, medals, and signs. Interested in adding Diversity Souvenir of Prominence to your collection, trophy, cabinet, on your desk or wall? Let's talk. Contact us at 780-709-0965 or www.diversitymag.ca.
Yeah, those are great souvenirs, especially if you've been doing something in the community. Why not have that souvenir on your wall or on your desk? Take advantage of that.
Segment 5. Fashion and Beauty Time on Diversity TV. Harriet, what do we have for our audience this week?
Well, Quick Fix Hair. They're always fixing our hair, making us all look beautiful, whether it's natural, extensions, anything like that. So this week, we will go and visit Quick Fix Hair again at 118 Avenue in Edmonton. Quick Fix sells products such as hair extensions. Also, they have a full functioning salon on 10422 118 Avenue in Edmonton. And Teresa is wonderful. To get a hold of her, please go to www.quickfixit.ca and tell her that I sent you. Maybe she'll give you a discount. I don't know.
Yes, go and get that discount.
Yeah.
Segment 6. This week, we are celebrating the work of 3 women as part of Women's Day Special. Diversity Magazine Women's Day Special 2021, Janice Irwin.
Janice Irwin was elected to the Legislative Assembly of Alberta as the representative for Edmonton on Highlands, Norwood in 2019. Janice serves as the official opposition deputy whip and the critic for status of women and LGBTQ2S+ issues.
Diversity Magazine Women's Day Special 2021, Amy Yu.
Amy Yu is a founder of the award-winning digital marketing agency Kickbite Digital. Kickbite has been honored with a number of awards through Digital Alberta, Alberta's Premier's Award of Excellence, and was listed as one of Canada's top 2020 startups in Canadian business and Maclean's. That's a big deal.
It is, and Amy is a strong advocate for women, actively participates on the Women's Advocacy Voice of Edmonton, Digital Alberta, YEG Women in Tech, and Alberta Women Entrepreneurs. Amy is also a board member of the Alberta Association of Migration Studies, a group that aims to provide education and support for migrants and urban change.
Diversity Magazine Women's Day Special 2021 introduces Trisha Easterbrooks. And she's very familiar. I believe she's been on our panel quite a few times. She's always full of joy and has such good energy. And I think she has a photographic memory. She remembers every single thing we talk about.
Yes, she does. In fact, Trisha Easterbrooks serves as board chair for the Edmonton Public School Board. Elected in 2017, Trisha has pushed for the creation of an anti-racism policy and the collection of race-based data in Edmonton public schools. She believes education is the basis for all positive social change and is honored to serve students and families.
She's outstanding. I wonder if she's going to be running again. I asked her that question last time. She kind of left me in suspense, so we'll have to wait.
Yes, we hope she runs again.
Yes, she's a wonderful, wonderful trailblazer and inspirational to her students.
Read more about amazing women for Diversity Women's Day Special at diversitymag.ca.
Now we go off to something we always talk about every day, perhaps every week, perhaps even now. Segment 7, Coronavirus Project Cool Times.
Spring is here, and that means more opportunities for outdoor gatherings. Under current restrictions, there must be limited to 10 people with no indoor component. Backyard gatherings that require movement in and out of the home are not permitted. Attendees should remain distanced at all times and observe public health measures. In vaccine news,
Well, starting April 20th, Albertans born in 1981 or earlier can book an appointment for the AstraZeneca vaccine at participating pharmacies and through AHS online, or they can call 811. Walk-in vaccines will be available at the walk-in clinics in Edmonton, Calgary, and specific pharmacies across the province.
yes, AstraZeneca has been shown to reduce infection by 60 to 70% and severe outcomes like hospitalization by 80%. Reducing the age of eligibility for AstraZeneca is based on public health recommendations, looking at the benefit this vaccine offers against the small risk of adverse events from this vaccine.
For more information, please read a list of public health restrictions on the Alberta website, www.alberta.ca.
On to segment 8. In international news, we go to the United States, where solemn news has touched the hearts of many regarding the verdict of George Floyd. George Floyd, who was murdered in the U.S. last summer, amplified the Black Lives Matter movement and made headlines worldwide. Even here in Edmonton, we had a march that was celebrating Black lives and protesting the treatment of Black people by officials.
Derek Michael Chauvin, found guilty for killing George Floyd, charged with murder and manslaughter, He was let out of the court in handcuffs.
Some say this is a victory for the black community, but others say it's just a start. What do you think, Harriet? Is this a victory?
I think it's a beginning of many good things to come in the future. We hope that there's justice for all, not just for black people, but also for everybody in the community who's been treated unfairly out there. But it's a wake-up call to say things are changing. Hopefully things are changing. I'm hoping for that.
Yes. Now we go on to Chad. What's happening in Chad, Harriet?
Oh, there's been some interesting news. Some say it's a battle from the rebels. Some say, let's find out. There's been a lot of conversations on this topic.
Yes, some also say it's a coup. But Chadian officials say the president died on the front line battling the rebels. The 31 years in power president of the Central African country of Chad, Idris Deby, fresh from 80% election victory, was killed on the front line with rebels. His son takes over an 11-man military council.
That's interesting. So that's how it works in Chad. When the father dies, the son has to take over. I thought maybe they would do another political election, but it doesn't seem to be the case here.
Actually, it is a democratic state, but because the military, we're hearing that they backed his son and they chose to put him on without having elections.
Oh, say it isn't so. I guess that's how it's done there. Now on to segment number 9.
What are we cooking for dish of the week, Harriet?
Oh, my favorite segment, fresh chicken. Yum. The finished product coming off the kitchen is a unique version of fried chicken that is soft, soupy, tasty, and very presentable. The way of Chef Selassie of Selassie's Grill on 8604 112th Avenue Northwest, Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada.
Bon appetit.
Yum.
Segment 10. We have a lot of announcements this week. Edmonton will host a very important diversity conference this summer on July 6 to 10 at 9 a.m., inviting big names like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. III. For tickets, please go to diversityconference.ca.
BCB in action, empowering Black entrepreneurs to thrive. BCB in action, the premier wealth building support for Black businesses and entrepreneurs, stand with Black business community during this challenging time.
BCB in action, economically empowering and sustaining the Black business owners and entrepreneurs of our communities through entrepreneurship and capitalistic activities within Alberta and beyond.
BCB in Action provides resources to startups, entrepreneurs, and businesses in Edmonton, Alberta, and Western Canada. As business owners and entrepreneurs are hit the hardest by the COVID-19, BCB is here to advocate, support, promote, and empower Black businesses.
Please join on April 29th to hear about resources BCB has for entrepreneurs and businesses. Hear more from BCW's Tessie Omina.
And our business entity, BCB in Action, we have this amazing event coming up for you. And this is going to be on the 29th of April. It's going to be on Thursday. And at this event, we're going to showcase what programs and resources we have for you to innovate your business. So BCW has always supported Black businesses. And through our business entity, we offer workshops, training, and mentorship in various aspects of business. So join us on Thursday You can sign up at bcbinaction.org for this event, and we can't wait to have you. We can't wait to see you. Thanks.
Empower Black Entrepreneurs to Lead Successful Business Projects program. The aim of this program is to support Black entrepreneurs by providing information, strategies, and resources to help them increase their capacity and viability to innovate their businesses and overcome the impact COVID-19 had on their businesses. The support services will equip them to drive their business forward and identify ways to help their businesses prosper through webinars, forums, workshops, coaching, business skills development training, peer supports, and more best practices related to entrepreneurship.
How would you improve policing? Tell EPS your feedback does matter. Everyone is welcome to share their ideas and experiences at these community listening sessions. But space is limited, so please register early or leave your comments at epsinput.ca.
Some of the upcoming opportunities to participate include a Zoom meeting with sessions with Chief Dale McPhee. That will happen on Tuesday, May 18, 2021 from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Please do go register on their website, www.epsinput.ca.
On Saturday, May 8th, 2021, from 1 to 6 p.m., there will be a 2021 Women of Vision Conference, a Mother's Day get-together by Women of Vision Calgary. Tickets are $16.29.
And the venue will be on Saturday, May 8, 2021 from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Location, you guessed it, is an online event. There's absolutely no refund. That's the refund. There's no refund. So once you buy it, you're committed. This year's event description is they'll be looking at breaking the cycle of domestic violence with subtopic title, Physical and Sexual Abuse. Once you register, you will receive a Zoom link a few days to the event. The event will be the 9th annual Women of Vision event.
Segment 11. For those who want to explore the beautiful Edmonton Capital Region, join us on our diversity tour today at the lovely city of Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, Canada. Just 25 kilometers northeast of Edmonton, Fort Saskatchewan has a fast-growing population of over 24,000 according to the 2016 census, and lies along the beautiful North Saskatchewan River.
Wow, it is one of 24 municipalities that constitute the vibrant Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board. The historic, beautiful design, eye-catching water tower rises above the city and is conspicuous from most parts of the city. It was built in 1956 to a height of 45.72 meters. Wow. It got a facelift in 1996 from a young girl through a contest. Wow. Through a contest that won, and her iconic painting of the tower with people from all races holding hands highlights Fort Saskatchewan as a multicultural community.
Fort Saskatchewan became a village in 1899, a town in 1907, and a city in 1985, and ever growing. Due to the fact that it's not as busy as Edmonton, its proximity to the region's industrial might, agriculture hubs, nearness to Edmonton and other cities in the Edmonton Capital Region, Fort Saskatchewan is growing into an attractive city for those who want to raise a family.
I think we should go visit this town.
We should.
It sounds very picturesque, and why not?
We now begin our panel on the George Floyd verdict. Thank you for watching Diversity TV Community Newscast. This has been your host, Rayyah Sempala, and
Harriet, Tinka. Please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification button so that you're the first to get the news when we upload it. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. We also have a website.
yes, visit us at www.diversityplus.ca. We are also now on TikTok, so you can find us there as well.
See you next week. On to segment 12, Diversity TV in the Community. Diversity TV brings to you our panel to discuss the impact of the George Floyd verdict on our community.
You might already know that Derek Michael Chauvin, a police officer who was found guilty for the killing of George Floyd, charged with murder and manslaughter. He was led out of the court in handcuffed. Moderated by Diversity TV hosts Harriet, Tinka, and myself, Rayyah Sempala. Our panelists are Dr. Temitope Oriola, criminology professor at the University of Alberta, and Hazelyn Williams, who led the George Floyd Black Lives Matter rally in Edmonton, bringing out over 15,000 people. Welcome to the panel, Temitope and Hazelyn.
Thank you.
So I guess we'll first start with the verdict of George Floyd. What does it mean? Is it a victory? Is it a beginning?
For me, yesterday was somehow it felt like a victory, but after analyzing it, I shed a few tears. I was very emotional when I heard the verdict yesterday, but about 5 minutes in, I stopped to think and I thought about, the sentencing, like what kind of sentencing is he going to get? And so all of these questions just arose in my head, and I somehow I'm not satisfied. I feel like I'm not satisfied. And the reason for that is because I feel like we have to work so hard for us. And at the same time, I'm still have concerns about, my son and my nephews and just for Black people in general. I still have so much concerns around that. So, yeah, that's kind of how I felt about the whole thing.
Right.
Okay, we'll go ahead to Professor Temitope.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add that the bar has been set so low that people trooped out to the streets to celebrate that verdict. Now, given the mountain of evidence and the incontrovertible televisual display that we saw, that should not have been the case. This should have been a very straightforward, relatively predictable outcome. The fact that people, held their breath and weren't even sure what direction this would go, just shows that there are things that are fundamentally broken in the criminal justice system. A major part of that is a trial by jury system, so yesterday a single juror could have derailed the whole thing. If one juror out of 12 persons had said no, or had said that they weren't convinced that he was guilty, that would have been it. And therefore, it just shows that the reforms would have to include not just police reforms, it would have to include a comprehensive criminal justice reform, and that includes the system. Japan has a fairly more robust arrangement where 6 jurors are selected from the society, and they also have a panel of judges, a panel of 3 judges, professional judges. So they need a simple majority of the jurors to agree to a verdict supported by one out of those three professional judges. That's how they reach a verdict in serious cases, such as the one that we saw yesterday. I think that the current arraignment that we have is a bit of a gamble. There have been far too many cases where offenses were brought forward and yet there was no conviction because jurors, or one or more jurors, could not be convinced of the guilt of the accused person. Now, the dynamics of society, the divisions of society are expressed in a lot of these juries, and we can no longer discountenance the significance of those social divisions, and therefore police reforms are necessary, but so is a comprehensive overhaul of the criminal justice system.
So one thing that you mentioned is police reform, and one thing that we saw in this case with George Floyd and many other cases of police misconduct is that their fellow officers oftentimes back them, or what some people have termed the blue silence. So what is the future for police? Is it to defund police? Is it to reform? And not only in the US, also here in Edmonton, where we know that the police also has this culture.
That's a great question. I have argued different fora that the characterization of defunding policing or police is a bit misleading. I think that generally speaking, there are two major perspectives on that. One is that a lot of what counts as policing in the 21st century has nothing to do with traditional or conventional forms of law enforcement. Increasingly, police officers are being called to cases involving psychotic episodes of citizens, drunkenness, homelessness, and so forth, that those services, the finances for those kinds of services should be channeled to social welfare services who are better equipped to handle such. The other angle to defunding police, again, on the relatively far left of society, is that policing is fundamentally broken and that its financial asphyxiation, financial starvation is what is required. Now, that is not my position. My position is that funding ought to be moved to the social services where they can be competently and effectively administered. That could be within police organizations themselves. So police organizations would have to hire psychologists, psychiatrists, nurses, social workers, and so forth, who would be sworn officers, but would have the training, the education to do those roles. Or the funding could go to social welfare agencies within society who can then work hand in hand with police services to carry out this intervention. So for me, defunding means that you provide those funds to the areas where they are needed. And some have described what is needed as detasking rather than defunding. In other words, the police have become our response to almost everything. And therefore, some of the inefficiencies that we notice, some of the tragic outcomes that occur as a result of that are, the consequences of the excessive responsibilities that our society has placed on police officers. So it's important to distinguish that. But what is absolutely crucial, and I've argued over and over again regarding this, is to increase the minimum level of the minimum entry qualification for police officers. I've also argued that the 6-month training that they receive is inadequate. Most of the European countries with some of the best outcomes have on average 2.5 to 3 years of training before people qualify as police officers. So that has to be looked into, that 6 months is insufficient. We need a more robust, slightly longer period so people can have training with mental health issues, diverse communities, and so on and so forth. And also psychological testing. Chauvin, the man who was convicted yesterday, had no business in policing. He did not have the temperament of 21st century policing. This man had 17 disciplinary cases in his file before killing George Floyd. There is no other occupational specialist, no other profession would allow you to be in your job after 17 disciplinary issues. Not medical doctors, not lawyers, not university professors, not teachers at any level. You cannot have such a poor disciplinary record and still somehow mysteriously keep your job. And therefore, the point is there has to be a robust disciplinary architecture in policing. If such people do somehow manage to get in, there has to be a mechanism for easing them out, because such officers make policing more dangerous, not just for the society, but also for other police officers, because police-citizen interactions therefore become unnecessarily risky because of such encounters. So the verdict was a pro-police verdict. And I thought that the prosecution team was wise to make it clear to the jurors that this was a pro-police case. When there's accountability, when there's responsibility, the type that we saw yesterday, good police officers, in my opinion, a vast majority of them are happy, because individuals like Chauvin and so forth are the ones ruining the image of police officers. So I thought that it was long overdue. That individual should not have been in policing in the first instance, and certainly should not have lasted as long as he did.
Well, thank you for that response. It's interesting that Chauvin had such a bad record, and yet he continued being a police officer. And interesting, when most people want to get a job, they have to get a police check. Where would the police go to get the police check? It's a bit ironic. Now, what I wanted to ask either one of you is, now that we know the verdict, the next thing is the sentencing. We don't know what the sentencing is. I believe the maximum you can get is 40 years, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. What is a Black Lives Matters, or any one of you can answer, preparing to do in the event that the sentencing is very minimal, to the point that is laughable? I mean, it's insulting, not laughable. It's insulting to the community. Are you prepared to voice yourself? What is it that you have prepared for an event like that?
I could answer that for me and for the people that are in my team or my associates that I work within the community. We don't really have anything planned as to how we would handle that, but I definitely feel like something would need to be done, but it's to sit down with the team and to figure out, where we would take this. But absolutely, I believe that something would need to be said or something would need to be done for this. If it's less than even 10 years, I think it would be so laughable, and we would seem so insignificant. And to put in all of that kind of work that we put in, and it's not just in Edmonton, it's not just in Canada, but this was globally. People were demonstrating all over the world for this unjustly, untimely death. I feel like it would be a slap in the face for anything past less than 20 years. So that's my opinion. I even wrote on a post that I think 99 years would be too little for him to get in such a sentencing, where it's such a crime that he has committed. But I think that might be a little bit far-fetched. So I think if he gets anything less than 20 years, I'll be willing to sit down and speak to some people for us to continue to voice our concerns and stuff like that. But in a sense, I feel like our work has not been finished with all the other killings that are happening. And recently we saw so many violent deaths with involving police and Black civilians that it's just outraging me. And that's something that we just need to continue this fight. I just feel that. Just to elaborate a little bit about what Dr. Tope had gone over with the training for police, whether it is to abolish or to dismantle or whatever, I agree with some of what he's saying, but also I think psychological evaluation is needed for some of these police before they even enter the force, because I don't see how we can have unfit people who are probably, you know, has faced many traumas, maybe childhood traumas that they have not gone and get counseling for. They've not gotten help to for any of those kind of traumas, but they're still able to go in and train for 6 months, and then on top of that, they have no conscience. And there's so many things that are surrounding that. And then they have qualified immunity, you know, where they can get that in the States, where, you know, they can come out on the other side with any kind of with families having no what do you call it? No consequences. Families see no consequences for their hurt family members. So there's just a bottle. It's a whole emotion. It's a whole lot of things that we need to take into consideration when we're talking about abolishing, the dismantling, and all of that. And it's a lot of work. Our work has just begun.
Right. So if I may respond to that, thank you, Sister Eslin, for that. So I think, because this is now in the hands of the court and in the hands of the judge, the accused person, now the convicted felon, did ask that the sentencing be done by the judge rather than the jury, and that is significant. So it's entirely in the hands of the judge as to what they feel, based on the weight of evidence, the gravity of the offense, the brutality of the case, the vulnerability of the victim, who was already handcuffed to his back, face down, and 46-year-old man crying for his mother, and all of that. All of those are aggravating factors.
Absolutely.
No threat, and so all of those will be looked at as probable grounds, as aggravating factors that would play a role in the sentence that he will get. I don't want to put any specific number to it, but I understand the optics of it, that if the sentence is too light, I would feel that all of the activism around George Floyd's death was all in vain. But I like to emphasize the significance and symbolism of the conviction in and of itself. I think that is significant. I think it sends, regardless of how many years is given and all that, it does send a very clear message that you're required by law to treat citizens with dignity and respect. And I think that this marks a watershed moment in the history of policing in the United States. Policing in the United States has been known for its brutality since at least the late 19th to early 20th century. So this is not new. And in my role, for instance, as special advisor on the Police Act Review in our province, I've always been very clear that if we're looking to emulate any other jurisdiction, the United States is a bad example. We should not be copying that. We should be looking at the UK, at Finland, at Norway, at Germany, at Sweden. Those are some of the countries with the best outcomes. They're not perfect, but they have some of the best outcomes. Those are the ones we should be emulating, not the United States, because there's a level of violence in the United States that is not necessarily replicated anywhere else in the world. And so that is significant. But
so what do you, excuse me, Dr. Tope, so what do you think is the reason for that? So is that the courts that is upholding those kind of, that kind of system? What is it that is upholding that's causing that? If I might ask.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to respond. It's a comprehensive issue. So first of all, police officers are recruited from society. Police officers embody the norms, the values, the priorities, the do's and don'ts, the biases, and the good demeanor and everything else that is within society. They are members of society. And therefore, when police officers assist a citizen who has a flat tire, they reflect us. When they do other things that we disapprove of, and show sentiments or biases that we disapprove of, they also reflect the society. And therefore, the recruitment has to then target specific qualities, specific characteristics. For far too long, the action-oriented, shoot first, ask questions later type of mentality and attitude was prioritized, especially in the United States. In Canada, we have our own issues. Obviously, the Police Act review would bear that out. The very existence of that shows that we recognize that we have issues as well, but we don't come close to what they have. And I saw a study recently, a 2019 study, shows that 1 out of 1,000 Black men in the United States can, quote, expect to die in the hands of police. 1 out of 1,000 Black men. That is staggering. That is unbelievable. But having said that, there's a level of violence in society in the United States that is not replicated elsewhere. They have the highest number of civilian firearms in the world. The country that comes second, Yemen, is at war right now. And even Yemen does not have 50% of the weapons that the US has. So you're starting off with a very and fundamentally violent society with tremendous availability of firearms, unmatched anywhere else in the world. And then when you go to the courts, because of the way the trial by jury system works, it gives room for a situation where accused persons could go free. And evidence shows that jurors are reluctant to convict police officers. In fact, police officers are less likely to be convicted, and when convicted, they get far lighter sentences than the other members of society. These are incontrovertible facts.
Is that because of the qualified immunity that they have, like that they go by?
That is part of it. That is part of
it. Okay. All right.
Tommy Tope, thank you for that. And I know you have scared all of us and even our viewers with the harrowing reality of the situation. But what I want to ask is that we know that the US is a very extreme version of all the wrongs that can go within policing. However, we don't want our viewers to think that here in Canada, we're kind of an innocent, like a blank slate, because we also do have our own issues. So moving it back maybe to Alberta, Edmonton, Calgary, we know in Toronto that Toronto might mirror more what the US in policing, but I know in Edmonton and Calgary, here in the Western Territories, we have more Indigenous minorities being oppressed, even Black people being oppressed, Black communities. So how do we move forward from this? How does Canada reflect on what has happened in the US and reform before we get and become the US?
Well, that's a very tricky question, but it's something that I thought about even when Dr. Tope was just talking about that. I'm of the, I just think that we can't turn a blind eye that and be ignorant that it cannot happen here or that it is not happening here, because it is happening here. It might not be as dramatic or as dangerous or it's not even subtle now in Canada. It's out there. Police brutality has been happening. Just recently, about maybe 3 weeks ago, there was a report in the paper of a guy who was fixing his car downtown. And the police walked up on him and asked him to identify himself and was trying to, they were almost like pushing the limits, where if he had responded aggressively or with a high-pitched tone or anything could have provoked them to take further action. So we should not think that it cannot happen here, or it's not happening here, because it is happening in Toronto, it's happening in Edmonton, it's happening in all the major provinces throughout Canada. So one thing that we can continue to do in Canada, that I think that I talk to my little group that is around me about how to handle police when they pull you over. You know, we can continue to educate young Black men about, you know, what to say, how to answer questions, how to keep your composure, and all of that. Because, you know, with this kind of I would call it, they're just, the police seems like they can just kill you at the spur of the moment. They could be triggered by your raised voice or the wrong tone. If they interpret your voice, you're speaking with them to be the wrong tone or something like that. It could be something very simple. So we have to teach our young Black men and young Black women as well. Women are not exempt from police brutality. So I think that we just need to continue educating on how to conduct ourselves when we're out there, and also advocate for policies and laws that are going to change and give us some peace of mind and give us safety and help us to feel safe as citizens. And we don't need to feel targeted every time we're in our cars, or be looking over our shoulders, or be walking down the street and be living in fear. So that's kind of what my advocacy is going to be about. That's what I want to work on that. I just want to admonish city councils and the law courts and everybody that is involved that makes laws and do these things to just open their eyes and listen to what we're saying. Like, one of the things that I think that they're not doing, they're not listening to us. They always, like, they hear us, but they're not listening. So we just want to get them to listen to when we say we can't breathe, that's what we mean. We can't breathe. And that's almost, it could be a literal thing.
Right. Thank you for that. And I'm happy to announce, because I will be failing in my responsibility if I didn't mention my role as special advisor on the Police Act review here in our province. And that is to emphasize the weeks and weeks of listening sessions that have been done, and the distillation of the findings, the key issues that came up from community members, different groups, youth groups, women's groups, LGBTQ, Black Canadians, and a whole host of other stakeholders. All of those recommendations and thematics from those conversations will go into changing or amending the Police Act in our province. You may be aware of the recent bill that was tabled before the legislature here in our province only a few days ago regarding carding. Somebody texted me asking, oh, do you think this would solve all the problem? And I said, it may not solve all the problem, but it will solve several of the problems. But at least it gives a legal pedestal, a legal basis to say, I was stopped. I want to know why I was stopped, or I feel that I was unfairly carded, or I was asked for my identification and there was no justification for it. It is the first time that kind of measure is coming up and is being codified into the Police Act. That is significant. And I can also announce that there are also other significant steps that are occurring. I am not at liberty to share all of those private / official conversations, but I know that by the end of this year, they will be made public and by way of specific bills or a single bill in terms of proposals that will go into amending the Police Act of Alberta. In my evaluation of the Police Act last year, I found out that out of the 10 major criteria that we use in looking at or examining police acts globally and making comparisons, the Alberta Police Act had 4.5 out of 10 of those things. In other words, a mark of 45%, which is low, but considering that this act was passed back in the 1980s, there had been a need for an overhaul. A process is ongoing as we speak. I have faith that given the commitment of those involved, both people from the Ministry of Justice, the Minister of Justice himself, who has put tremendous political capital into this. I'm talking about Honorable Casey Madu, and as well as the team and the incredible number of fellow citizens who devoted their time into telling us their minds. Some of those sessions were very hot, I have to say, and I mean, very, very heated conversations, but that needed to happen. I come from Southwest Nigeria, and there's a saying there that when siblings leave a room and they are all smiling and laughing, they have just lied to themselves. But when siblings leave a room and are frowning, and so one or two of them look angry, they have just told themselves the truth. We had very heated conversations in some cases, and in some cases, less heated conversations, but there will be definite, tangible, measurable, observable outcome from that. And those outcomes will be parlayed into amending the Police Act. So all I'm asking is that we have faith that this will happen and that change is coming in our province in order to shape policing within Alberta. And I agree with you all. Edmonton is not Minneapolis. They have social conditions that are not quite at the same scale, but we cannot fool ourselves into thinking that we don't have issues. We do. And the experiences of some of our community members do reflect that. And it's important that we listen to our people, to people from all communities, especially people from marginalized communities, in order to make the right changes. I'm humbled to be part of this drive. I can assure you, I hope that in another few months from now, we will be talking about very specific changes that have been introduced and hopefully passed into law in our province to ensure that the interactions between police and citizens are not dangerous for either side. That young man, black, brown, white, whatever background, that young woman of any background would encounter the police and feel like they were treated with dignity and respect and can go home safely without injuries, without dying on the streets. And that the police officer can also return to their own families safe, confident that they've done their part to keep a safe and healthy society. So both sides need to work together. And I'm hopeful that that is on the horizon, that we will succeed in improving policing in our province.
I think with the verdict, maybe the thermometer moved a little bit. Hopefully it will continue to move up and see changes because it's so important. And I do like what you said about that Nigerian saying that you have. So let's assume we are all we're frowning. We're not laughing, just to make it valid. So thank you so much for the conversation. We got so much out of it, and we'll continue to have this conversation, especially when we hear the sentencing. We hope to bring you back again to continue the dialogue. And we hope that everybody who's listening got a lot out of this conversation, and we will see you again. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing this great information that you shared with us. Take care. From Diversity TV.
Thank you.